While winter weather remains several weeks out, lower fall temperatures signal the time to switch over to winter preparations. Part of that prep may include putting up boats and other watercraft for the winter. Now, in our final river report of the season, Adrian Peterson shares tips for watercraft storage during the winter.
As folks prepare for winter's arrival, there are a handful of tips to be aware of for best storage practices, in particular storing watercraft. For human-powered crafts such as canoes, kayaks, paddleboards, and inflatables, keeping the craft dry and free of lofty weight from snow is key, but they each have different needs as well. According to Alaska Dream Adventures, for canoes it's best to keep them off the ground and to make sure they aren't propped up on their side. If snow accumulates on a canoe on its side, it could damage the boat and make it unsafe come next season. Kayaks are less susceptible to this risk, but should also remain off the ground. If possible, hanging canoes and kayaks under a solid covering or even indoors is best. Paddleboards, however, should be stored on their side and they should never lay flat. As for inflatable craft, it's important to deflate them and also keep them stored in a dry location that isn't exposed to sharp objects that may puncture the craft. For motorized watercraft, both inboard and outboard engines have their own needs. According to the boat shop, inboard engines will need to be drained, heat exchangers will need to be blown out with compressed air, and sand traps will need to be cleared as well. This prevents any trapped water from expanding and damaging the engine when it freezes. For outboard engines, gear oil will need to be drained as well as fuel, and two-stroke outboards will need to be fogged. Both engines will need to have their batteries removed, and those should be stored indoors. For those larger boats, it's also important to keep snow out of and away from the hull. This can be done by shrink-wrapping the boat or putting an A-frame in the boat and covering it with a tarp. If snow and ice build up inside the hull, it can cause damage and reduce the safety of the vessel. This is Adrian Peterson reporting for News Center Fairbanks.
News Center Fairbanks River Report is brought to you by Alaska Dream Adventures.